Starting to record. Fantastic. So, welcome to the July edition of the Cartography OSS Sync. So, what sort of stuff has been going on? That's exciting. Well, we have Ryan adding a bunch of issues and putting up a bunch of PRs. Just the last few days, I didn't even see them because I've been looking at the other PRs that came in. So, and I guess he put some in earlier in the month. So there's around encryption, tagging, a bunch of different areas. So that's super exciting. Let me just even go through some of these issues. Yeah.
Did you want to share screen?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's see. Present now. Looks like this window. Okay. Fantastic. So here are the open issues for the project. Now, some of these obviously are have been open for a while, but more recently, there's a number of these ones, which are exciting. So, two specific issues from Ryan. Adding a tagging relationship, and there's a PR for this too. So he's been super fast. I believe this is the PR. Yeah, 655. So this is good. It's, I guess, on the list to review. So that's the tagging one. And then the other one I believe Ryan added is...
For the tagging one, I'm kind of wondering, I'd like to take a look at because he says in there that IAM stuff isn't directly supported. Or am I getting mixed up?
No, the IAM...
Or is that a separate one?
That could be a separate one because there's a secrets manager. It says yeah. So in the tagging PR, so this is probably
yeah. So like you see that commit where he has remove IAM group role and user. Yeah. So like I think that originally he thought that that IAM stuff was supported by this resource group tagging API, but I guess it's not.
Yeah. This is something that probably we should follow up on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like it might be useful, maybe for like it'd be great to talk to Ryan actually in person. Maybe we just move this to end of day one of these days. Have like a late night so we can get him in the morning.
Yeah, that's true. We gotta think about that. Find a way to accommodate also our people located in Asia.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, like this is cool. This bears, obviously further examination or any examination on my part at least. You've already reviewed a few of his PRs, it looks like, and then merged them. So that's great. And we'll cover those in a second. So we have Elastic IP. I thought we had Elastic IPs, but I guess not. And then we have support for Secrets Manager. What was that?
That was Andrew. You guys haven't met Andrew before, I don't think. Hey.
Fantastic. Hey, Andrew.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. So we've just started discussing PRs and open issues. So there's a bunch of exciting stuff.
Yeah, so Andrew is the person that put together a lot of the IAM work on cartography. And he's been working on like this kind of graph approaches like way longer than I have. And Fee, if you're the Okta stuff that you've been working on, the whole can assume role, that was his feature. And that other blog post, that was something that was co-written by the two of us.
Oh, fantastic.
Yep. Draw all the lines for each other.
No, that's great. And we have actually one interesting thing with regards to IAM, which is, so Ryan's put up a PR and like apparently, well, and we can actually go look at this. So we have Elasticache, we have indexes here on EMR, and we're adding tags, but like IAM isn't part of this.
Yeah, so like AWS has this resource groups tagging API that what it does is every single resource type has tags, and then so you can either go to a specific resource type, query for the tag,
Yep.
and then do all of that. And then so resource groups tagging API is like this sort of general purpose mechanism. Yep. And then so like as you see here, we in this particular Intel module, we set up a bunch of different, I guess, property maps to deal with like, oh, how are you going to identify a given resource with the ID, and how you're going to get like a given label, all that stuff. And I would have thought that IAM would have been in here. Like we get that for free, I guess, but I guess I got to dig deep into the IAM docs or the resource groups tagging API docs.
Yeah. So okay, like cool to do. It's surprising, but you know that's something we can do. Okay, so secrets manager, that seems, well, it's a big PR, and we're not going to look at that together. Let's see other issues. So let me close these ones. This one is interesting. This one, I guess you've already looked at, Alex, but fetching AMIs.
Oh, right. Well, where was this one at? I thought that this was, I had approved it already. Maybe
there's a performance thing. I don't know if did you write is there a PR for this? Let me.
Oh, this is I see. So this is the issue for fetching AMIs, huh?
Yeah.
And then so I think that, oh no, there is no PR. I'm a little confused. There's been like a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, so. He's filed a bunch of issues. This is interesting. I mean, this starts getting to, like this starts kind of, you know, being one of those things where you break apart the sync. Well, more continuous sync, and this is I don't even know what to think about this in our current flow.
Okay, so there's a couple of different things. I think that it will just kind of be, the way I imagine it is that it would be probably just a filter on the get phase, kind of like how in Andrew's IAM logic, when you're doing because when you're trying to get IAM policies or IAM permissions, you don't want to retrieve every single IAM permission that is available by AWS, because that just is ridiculous. There's just way too many. You want to find only the permissions that are relevant for your specific graph. So you get your principals, and then from there you determine, okay, what are the permissions that are associated with my principals? And so like what Ryan's proposing there is, rather than get every single AMI type available by AWS, let's get only the AMIs that are relevant to me. And it looks like he already put in logic maybe about a couple weeks, a month ago, where he's syncing AMIs only where the owner is you. And so this is kind of like a second pass at that. And yeah, it sounds like he's going to be working on that shortly. And we really should try to maybe move the meeting, like maybe we can do an alternate on like I don't know, Europe time zone, which is right now, versus Asia time zone, which would be kind of, I got to do the math on that.
The Europe time zone is tough too. Like, so this would be evening in Europe right now. If we do morning in Europe, I think it's still like fairly. It's also weird. Right, there's a giant time zone gap between Europe and Asia too.
Yeah, right now at least it's 5 p.m. in Europe, so well, in London at least. So
yeah. I mean, that's not part of Europe anymore. But okay, so like we have, I guess, more stuff for us to review. But this is good. This is good.
Do we push for things like this as to what the scenario is? Like, why?
No, that's actually one of the things I would like to ask Ryan in person. Like, he's been putting in a bunch of stuff. Like, you know, what specific thing is he working towards? Like, you know, is there kind of a unified approach we can take? Yeah.
So it seems like EC2 instances should already have the AMI that it's running, right?
Yeah, like it's a field in the instance itself, I think.
So this would be AMIs that are not running that might somehow be public, or I don't know. It just seems like whatever the whatever the scenario is should guide how to actually do this. You know,
Right.
and IAM didn't care about anything that's not currently being used, so we didn't bring them in. But in AMIs, maybe you do care about the things that are not currently being used.
Yeah, we need to find. I guess the action here is figure out more what his goal is.
Right.
Okay, so next one is this error syncing KMS data, and yeah, zone offset not in valid range. Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Yeah, I think Ryan had a we had a Slack thread recently where rather than store the date object itself in Neo4j, although Neo4j has date support, we could standardize on this by simply including a epoch milliseconds value.
I saw that too.
Yeah.
That might make sense.
I mean, it's the simplest way of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an argument against it. I think that sounds very reasonable.
I like the update tag.
Yeah. Okay, so then there's this other issue, unable to skip certain services and access is denied. This you've already looked at, and you basically requested a PR. I don't think there's a PR yet for this, though. But
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we await a PR. So open PRs. This is closed. Oh, we've had a few things that have been closed. Specifically, we got some issues from Ryan. Well, no, I guess this isn't the last one. We got the reserved AWS EC2 instances. There's a follow-up for this for EBS, so that's exciting. We're commenting on that. I assume we'll be able to merge it this week or early next week. Let's see, open stuff. So we have several from Ryan. Here's the EBS one, and then we have some other stuff that's been sitting around for a while. So this is pretty good. I guess at this point I will stop sharing this, and we can move on to discussing topics and whatever else we find interesting. So, any exciting stuff going on? Any stuff you guys would like to discuss?
Yeah, one topic I'd like to bring up is how can we do a scheduled release or an automated release? So I guess let me actually open, maybe I can explain this. So we try to do a release like every 2 weeks or so, and then this is a manual process. And let me actually open.
I looked at this with the GitHub Actions, and I couldn't figure it out either.
Yeah, so let me see if I can share like what the current process is right now. So right now, like if I want the way of editing a release or to cutting a new release is that we're going to go into setup.py, and then because we need to publish this on PyPy, we're going to do like a minor version bump every couple of weeks or every so often that we want to release something to PyPy. And so I will bump this from 39 to 40, and then I'll go to releases, and then I'll go ahead and then draft new release, and then all that stuff. So this is a very manual process. And there's a GitHub action that we have that when this does get, once I cut a release, then it will publish it to PyPy. And then so this particular workflow, I think that, can I click on, yeah. So this is kind of neat. So it'll push it up to PyPy. It'll do like all of this, I guess, GitHub action stuff. And then what I'm wondering is there a way for us to also automatically bump the version on here?
There has to. I mean, there has to be a like. I looked at this and I couldn't figure it out. But I looked at it briefly. There has to be.
Yeah. So I guess I'll cut an issue, and then but I just wanted to raise it up here for the group because having an automated release, having it like bump the thing on PyPy and then release what we have, and then maybe do some like putting together all of the PR messages together in a coherent, like bulleted list. That would be a big time saver, and then make it so that we don't have to do this every single month. But if this is the best process, if this is the only way to do it, then I guess we'll live with it. But I'd like to investigate. So anybody who knows about how to do that, help is very much welcome.
Is there an actual build task? There isn't actually a build that happens.
Build in, you mean like in PyPy?
Right.
Yeah, so like that GitHub action will do that entire build thing. So it'll package it all up and then it'll send it over to PyPy.
Right. So traditionally, the build will insert an environmental variable of what the build number is. And so instead of hard coding it, you just go look that up.
Right. The problem is, though, that for PyPy to pick it up, it has to be hard coded in that set.py file.
Okay.
Yeah, we basically need like we could have a separate file that has the version number in it, and then that gets pulled into the other file, and then we somehow rewrite that other file, like the version file every time. But I mean, there has to be like a way to do this, and like I can't believe that it's not like easily automatable.
Yeah, I do think they want you to think about what you're releasing. Is this really a release, or is this just a different build?
Well, for like minor version numbers, it wouldn't be bad for each PR to like be a new minor version number.
Right.
So, yeah,
something
good,
for the
good point, Alex.
Yep, you got another issue where it's like, oh, we'll see what happens. It would be a big nice to have, not exactly a big blocker right now, but it'll help us.
Yeah, another cool thing that I want to bring up is kind of something we figured out on the reporting end. I can't show anything because I didn't prepare any data, and it's in theory Lyft internal, but some of the kind of another team that we work with heavily in kind of developer infrastructure put together a reporting workflow that looks at dependency drift. So like how many different Python dependencies do we have for like a given library, or how many different versions of the dependency we have. So we have like way too many versions of Bodo Core, like hundreds, which is obviously not great. So that's pretty cool. Just as a general thing, I think we might be able to start getting like moving more of these insights over to the OSS side. I have as an action item to try and set up local stack and Airflow with Cartography in Docker Compose as kind of a local reference in how to use Airflow and generate some of these sorts of at least reports or insights. I think it'd be useful. It's just I haven't had time to do it because I've been working on other stuff.
Oh yeah, Andrew, just to kind of get you up to speed on that, Nico's kind of done a lot of work with Airflow and our DAG stuff. So we've been experimenting, and then so we tried out Airflow, we've tried out Flight, and then so anything that has to do with a DAG, Nico's kind of played with that for us.
Yeah, I'm trying to kind of get a more ETL-based workflow for this stuff. I mean, right now, just batch streaming would be cool. But basically give us kind of more programmatic query ability. So it's working well. Unfortunately, like our internal Airflow setup is not great. I would prefer to use Airflow, honestly, just because it's more widely used in the open source world. But our internal Airflow is a giant monolith, so it doesn't work well for our purposes. But the code should be fairly portable, and I do. Maybe in September I'll try and open source some of those aspects of it and kind of get a reference in there, because I think it's something really useful. And if we just have canned reports, it could be pretty fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's when we're running any of our graph databases, the Cartography backed one or others, that's the same problem we have. We have this wealth of knowledge. It's all there. it's even though we're expanding it, there's already a ton there. How we show other people is the pain.
Yeah.
Schema. Even once you get Cypher, you've got to understand our schema, and even all the documentation can't do that. So we focus on certain scenarios, and we pump out those scenarios on a daily basis.
Yeah,
that's easy to be able to look at new scenarios if that's something you're interested in.
Yep, and then like a lot of information, like we're doing a few of these reports on vulnerabilities, and you just get the vulnerabilities, and like if you have it in Presto in your data warehouse, you can slice it up really nicely, kind of by team, by service, by org. So there's I think these things. I think it's a good way of doing things. Plus, having kind of a DAG-based approach allows you to, do the queries, generate the reports, have all these workflows, and then maybe drive automated actions at the end of it, like a Slack message, if something increases dramatically.
Absolutely, that's key right there. You can also, once you're doing that, you can then get historical data and show reports over time.
Yep, that's exactly what we've started doing. So I basically didn't focus. We normally have like 30-day retention in our data warehouse, but I've upped it for a few of our tables to 1 year. So we can start tracking this kind of stuff better over time. It'll be interesting to see, like, doing more kind of drift analysis, kind of like that. We can get data day, data week, data month, data 6 months, and it should be easy and fast.
Yeah, our space is so large that it doesn't always come through super obvious. But when people start making really bad decisions, they're cutting up DNS names instead of hosting them a different way. We can quickly see that trend starting that way. And, a lot of times we go fix the documentation, or we go write something on the best practice. But if you're tracking all of these things, it becomes easy when the drift is starting to look suspicious, or when the drift is headed in the wrong direction.
Yeah. The big problem with it is you only know what you know. We can, for drift detection, I guess the current approach right now is just, query, versus looking at the whole graph. I'm not sure how we'd do it, honestly, like doing the whole graph drift. Like, I could print you out a diff. And I'm doing a lot of analysis in Spark, some Presto, but mostly Spark. But like, I think this is something I'm going to look at later in the year, but I'm not even sure how we would do it, honestly. Like, if you could do like whole graph and just say, well, the shape of it's changed in this way, and do some like, simple like ML on it, and say, well, this, like, it's changed this much in the past day.
Yeah, I think that the key there is to do what Andrew was describing, where you are focusing as much as possible on individual scenarios at first, and then like what you're mentioning with having kind of this generalized approach of saying like, oh, what changed over the past day in general? How can we describe that in some way? That's neat, but that'll be like the next level. But right now, it's like we got to be super focused on what scenario we're trying to do. So we only know what we know, but let's see how much we can extract from that right now. And then to kind of talk a little bit about current scenarios, just to plug a Fees project a little bit right now.
Oh, yeah.
One thing that she's working on is being able to do drift detection on, like, you have a expected list of who your administrators are, and you compare that to what the actual list in the environment is. And then if there is kind of a difference between those two things, then you would want to have a control that removes the unexpected administrator in your environment.
Yeah, just for our sanity, we have pretty good metrics around our syncs. This many EC2 instances went in, this many got updated, this many got deleted. Even those metrics, the very simple ones we use for our service, we find things in them all the time.
Yeah.
We're picking up way too many IAM roles, and all of a sudden there was a massive spike. And then we kind of look into it, see if it's a data problem, was it something we were supposed to do, or something over there. And so we just keep track of all of those over time. We've had so many different teams want it. The resource allocation team wants it. The finance team wants it, just to know a sort of overall big picture.
Yep.
This many EC2 instances and this many teams. And then the other one we track over time is all the access we know. So access to the AWS accounts, access from the AWS accounts to the S3 buckets. And we just count them all up. There's 1 million role to S3 bucket accesses. If that starts really increasing, then someone's starting to put in policies that are really not a good idea. Then we go check that out.
Yeah, we should. That would be something really like. Well, yeah, I guess I need to get my act together on the OSS side and put together kind of reporting sample. But having like some of those kind of sample things, like here's the query that just here's a bunch of queries that generate for the day, like those good metrics for like overall kind of security posture. That'd be fantastic.
It's great to prove you. So our whole marketing is for our version. If there's an attack against our system, if it's attack against our service, we want that attack to have been mapped in our graph, in our cartography instance.
Yep.
So that's why we're constantly adding new data. We're trying to find new attack paths that were in there, so that if we ever got breached, we were there. Yep. Then we count all of those attack paths. So these are more of the bit crazy queries, and we show the trend going down. So we're like, hey, there might still be 1 million attack paths, but there was 2 million before, so we've cut down half the risk. So
yep,
both need to be finding new attack paths that we didn't already know about and burning down the ones that we have. Once you have that graph, it is easy to sell the value.
Yeah, yeah.
I can almost say that I've made it twice as secure. Half as many attack paths are possible now as there were before.
Oh, look at you with all these like KPIs and metrics.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, that's what the people. I mean, you know, our customers are compliance and the execs for this sort of thing.
Andrew's all grown up now, huh?
Yeah. Putting that out in the open source would be absolute killer.
Absolutely.
I think cartography is there, and the people that want to jump in, they really get it. But for us, there are maybe 5,000 people that read our reports and metrics, and like 7 of us who actually know the schema.
Yeah, that's critical. Yeah, just having a way to consume it. I'll have to look at this. I have so much other stuff I have to kind of cram out soon, but yeah.
I like that. Like, what are some other good things to count? You mentioned like a number of attack paths, and what are some other things?
We make it so for the core team. The idea is to make it as easy as possible to burn down systemic risks.
Yeah.
So we make it easy to start a campaign. You give us a query. You do need to learn the schema. You give us a query, actually in a sister team, and they will monitor that and burn it down. You have to have a whole story, right? Like, this is human access to critical data, and we need to burn that down, and here's why we're burning it down, and here's the tickets and all this stuff. So you have a full end story. We make that as easy as possible to create, and then that burns it down. And we get some that are not even security related. We don't want this AMI being used anymore for legal reasons. We don't know if we have the right, contractually, we're not allowed to use this thing anymore.
Yep.
So burn down all of this Linux distro that's in the environment. It's not really a security thing, it's a compliance legal thing, but it's just everybody's on the same view of the infrastructure, and burning down those things becomes super simple. And then we try and move up the chain as possible. We hate just ticketing teams. That's like the absolute worst. I do not want I tried my best to never write a ticket gun, but we do have one. But if this AMI shouldn't be used, create a freaking AWS policy, right? That's where we take these people that really know the schema and AWS, and here's our problem. Can't use this AMI. Okay, let's go in and define a policy somewhere, an SCP, and burn it down in that particular thing. So we have stories for problems, and that story has to have what exactly the problem is and what we plan to do about it, and then we feed that into the system, and it just deals with it.
This is really helpful.
Yeah, I first wanted to build kind of just our internal kind of a good analysis path that we could use. But yeah, I mean, I like we have kind of individual dashboards, but kind of really getting some nice KPIs out of it would be great. And I think we can port that to open source side pretty easily. And have like a nice base set of metrics for people and show it with a little sample AWS and local stack.
Well, like Andrew said, it's all about coming up with that story and then finding that thing, that specific problem that you want to burn down, and then like getting one core scenario out of that. And then I think that like once you have one story and you're able to prove that, it should be pretty straightforward to get success and get buy-in from others that kind of see the value, and then something will click, a light bulb will go off in other people's heads, and then other people will be able to create their own stories from then on.
Right. And so we started off, the very first sort of entry was a tool that our red team still uses, and it's called Scenario as the tool. And so we've just sort of built up queries around a scenario. A user gets breached. So that could be used by the blue team or the red team. I phished someone and they finally clicked on my payload. What can I do? That is a series of queries. I could go check Google Drive. I could go check for their workstation. I go check AWS accounts. I can go check all of these different things. So it is simply a command line tool that outputs a markdown file. So scenario, phished user, Andrew, hit go, and out comes a markdown file of all of that stuff.
Yeah, of all the stuff you can access.
Clicking on little circles or anything like that. Hey, you can hit these AWS accounts, you can hit these workstations. And so the blue team uses that all the time. We believe this user's compromised. Boom, what do we need to know? Now it's in a markdown file, they can share it out. You take the AWS side, I'll take the workstation side, and let's go do the IR investigation or whatever.
Oh yeah, that's really cool. At some point in Q4, I'm going to try and build a kind of reverse path analysis, like starting at all the sensitive information, walk backwards across the whole system. But that's going to be a bit more involved, unfortunately.
Yeah, that one. Yeah,
I mean, it shouldn't be hard to do, but it'll be a little more involved.
That is our whole security team's mission. Protect the critical data. So everything we do has a walk back from that.
Yep.
Everybody comes along and they say, ooh, this is a really big problem. And you get pinged in the middle of the night because there used to be a scanner before we started this priority thing. If you had a security group that was open to 0000, that's all it checked. It checked everybody's AWS account for a security group that had all access coming in, and you would get pinged in the middle of the night if someone created one. It was the most ridiculous thing. So we're like, all of that crap doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Work backwards from the critical data and see what's needed to be done.
I'm going to turn off the recording now if you guys are all right with it, since we've kind of burned through all the topics. Okay, and we've stopped.